Good evening, all. As you know from my previous videos, I am a fan of the late science fiction writer Philip K. Dick, and of certain movies that are adapted from his works. One which is it's a small movie. It's not a big budget Hollywood blockbuster, but which I still enjoy, is Impostor, which was from 2001. It was directed by Gary Fleeter and it stars Gary Sinese, Madeleine Stowe, Vincent D'Onofrio, Mekhi Phifer, and Tony Shaloub, amongst others. And it's really, I think it's quite good. It's an adaptation of his 1953 short story, Impostor. Um, this is not going to be a spoiler-free review because I can't really do a spoiler-free review of this. It wouldn't make any sense. Um, in the year 2039, the Earth was attacked by a alien civilization from Alpha Centauri, who they just refer to as the Centauri. They are technologically and biologically superior humanoids. And most of Earth's cities were destroyed. Now the cities that remain have been placed under electromagnetic force fields, and the Earth is in a permanent state of martial law. It's been ruled by a totalitarian military-style government. Uh, and Gary Sinise plays a scientist. It's 30 years later now, 2079. And Gary Sinise plays a character named Spencer Olham, who is a designer of a top secret government bomb, which is going to be like the ultimate weapon to, they're going to fire it at Alpha Centauri and destroy this alien civilization. He's at work and he's just talking with his friend Tony Shaloub about, marginal things. We see a scene of him making love with his wife, who is played by Madeleine Stowe, and then he goes into work and he's talking to Tony Shalhoub about his weekend and routine things, and all of a sudden he's arrested by security agents, what they call the ESA, Earth Security Agency, and he also works for ESA, by the way, and they accuse him of not being Spencer Olham, of being a Centauri android who killed Spencer Olham and has been assigned to replace him. He was scheduled to have a meeting with the head of the Earth government, who is a woman known as just the Chancellor, and they think that that his heart contains what's called a Centauri U bomb, and that it's been triggered to go off when he was going to meet with the Chancellor. Well, he keeps objecting and saying, "No, I'm not. I know who I am, and you can prove it. You can do a DNA test." They say, "Well, these Centauri are very clever, and they can fool DNA scans." He says, "Well, I've had a previous scan that couldn't be fooled, and if you compare it, and they're not having any of it. That Vincent D'Onofrio, who's the head of the ESA's investigation team, doesn't believe him. Won't believe a word he said. He's going to basically uh, dissect him." And he escapes and breaks out of the institution and medical laboratory and is trying to find his wife, who works there as well. He can't get in touch with her, and now all of a sudden he's a fugitive, and his name is posted everywhere. And he has a very difficult time. He has to flee the city and go to like an underpopulated area where he befriends this character played by Mekhi Phifer, who is just called I can't remember what his Kale, who is sort of this sneaky character. He's also a medic, and he has this like little hospital. And he says, if you help me get in, a lot of people are very sick. He says, if you can help me get back into the hospital where my wife Maya works, I can do a high-tech scan and have it redone and prove that I'm not a replica, that I'm really Spencer Olham. And he says, well, what's in it for me, basically, is that I can get you drugs. I can get you all the drugs you want, and you can help these people. And he said, yeah, they got high class, like antibiotics and things. He says, okay, and agrees to help him. And they sneak into the hospital. They're being pursued by, the security forces. He does a clever trick. The ESA agents had implanted a tracking device inside him, and he has this primitive doctor, Mekhi Phifer, remove it from him. And he plants it on Vincent D'Onofrio by bumping into him. He's masked, and he's got like a robe on, so he can't recognize him, and he plants it on him. So they're chasing who they think is him, but it's really Vincent D'Onofrio, because he has this thing in his pocket now. And so they're being led on a wild goose chase, which I thought was kind of funny. And they go into the hospital. He gets Mekhi Phifer in and gets him the drugs, tells him which ones to take and which, can cure almost any disease, including that of his son and his wife. And he helps him get into the scanning room, and he starts the scan, but he's interrupted when the ESA agents are onto him. Now they discover the trick that he pulled. Um, they're still fleeing, and he sends a coded message to Maya saying, "Meet me where we first met," which is a place called Sutton Wood. It was outside Los Angeles somewhere. There was a mysterious fire, and we saw that on the news broadcast in Sutton Wood. Nobody can figure out what started it. He says, "I can prove to you what started the fire and how I know it. It's an alien spaceship, a Centauri spaceship crashed here. And I know, what really happened." Well, he gets there, and of course, the security forces catch up with him, and he says, "No, no, wait, you don't understand. I'm not the replicant." And Vincent D'Onofrio says, "We know." And he says, "What do you mean we know?" He says, "We made a big mistake." And they enter the spacecraft, which is small. And again, that's in the story. It's small too. They open it, and there's Maya's body. She's dead. He says, "She's the replicant." And Vincent D'Onofrio shoots the replicant version of Maya. And then as he says, "Oh my God, I never knew, and I didn't suspect anything." And as they're making ready to go away, and they're going to destroy the spacecraft, one of the other soldiers says to Vincent D'Onofrio, "Major, wait." He says, "What do you mean, wait?" He says, "Look." He pulls back another panel in the spacecraft, and there is Spencer Olham with his throat slit. And he said, Gary Sinese says, "Well, if he is really Spencer Olham, then I must be and he says the word impostor, which is his trigger phrase, and the nuclear, Centauri U-bomb in his chest explodes and kills everybody. That is pretty much identical to what happens in the short story. They did pad it out. They didn't have the Mekhi Phifer character or the wife character in the short story. It was very much just a chase kind of a thing. Some of the critics say that they didn't like it because it was like too much like The Fugitive. Well, that's kind of the point. That was the point of the short story, and that's sort of the point of the movie too. Adapting Philip K. Dick's works can be difficult. There are very few really, truly good movies, other than Blade Runner by Ridley Scott, of course, based on Dick's novel Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. There is Steven Spielberg's excellent adaptation of Minority Report, which was not a short story, but a novella by PKD. And again, it follows it fairly closely. Whose Paycheck is very close adaptation of his short story of the same name. I did not like either of the versions of what's called Total Recall, which is based on his short story and We Can Remember It For You Wholesale. The short story is much better than either the Arnold Schwarzenegger version or the horrible remake that they made, which was really just abysmal. There are a few more, but really, it's very difficult. Screamers, which is based on Second Variety with Peter Weller, is also very good. Again, it follows the story pretty closely. And of course, there's The Man in the High Castle, the series, which, although it diverges from the novel, it follows certain elements of it fairly faithfully, primarily because it was overseen by his wife, Tessa Dick, who's now Tessa Dick Hackett, who made sure that they stuck to the point that he was trying to get across in the book. Anyway, if you see Impostor, it's free on Tubi, and they do have the director's cut, which is 102 minutes rather than the theatrical cut, which is 96 minutes, and it's well worth watching.